Devika Mehta, and I will be your host for this evening, presenting you the serving insights from Chef's own restaurant. To begin this panel discussion, it's my honor and privilege to introduce our first panelist, Chef Hemant Oberoi, a renowned and respected celebrity chef. He has worked with the Taj Group for 42 years and was the corporate chef and grand executive chef at Taj Mahal Palace, Mumbai. Chef Hemant Oberoi introduced Indian diners to cuisines from all across the world. His knives have carved the evolution of culinary industry in India. Whether it was Mediterranean cuisine at the award-winning soup, Sichuan at the iconic Golden Dragon, Japanese at the world-ranking wasabi, Chef broke boundaries in gastronomy. At the legendary Zodiac Grill, he took the fine dining culture to unbeatable heights. In 2018, Chef Hemant Oberoi came with a new platter of flavors and launched his signature restaurant in BKC, Mumbai. This restaurant is named after himself. He is the chef owner and CEO of OB Hospitality. Um, Sir, is Siddharth sir on call?
Yeah, we'll get him in and hopefully introduce him when he comes on board.
Okay. So now I would like to introduce our principal, Dr. Satish Jairam, who would be taking us through the webinar. He is India's first Doctor of Philosophy in Hospitality Revenue Management, a Master of Personal Management, Bachelor of Arts in Hospitality Management from UK, and Diploma in Hotel Management, Catering Technology and Applied Nutrition, and definitely a principal who leads our college passionately. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Devika. I want to introduce Siddharth
Yes, sure, sir.
Obroy. Sid, you're muted, so I request you to unmute yourself. Devika, you can introduce Siddharth as well.
Yes, sir. So, the next panelist is Mr. Siddharth Obroy. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah. So our next panelist is Mr. Siddharth Oberoi, an alumni of IHM Aurangabad from the class of 2002, and also the son of Chef Hemant Oberoi. He has worked with Taj from 2002 till 2018, starting at the Taj Lands End, Mumbai, as assistant restaurant manager and restaurant manager. He was the assistant food and beverage manager at Taj Mahal Palace and Towers in 2016, 2006 and 7, after which he moved to London where he was the operations manager at Bombay Brasserie Restaurant in 2008 and food and beverage manager from 2012 till 2018 at St. James Court Taj Hotel, London. And since 2018, he has been with OB Hospitalities Private Limited, supporting and carrying forward on the legacy of Hemant Oberoi Restaurant. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Devika. Let me begin by saying what a huge honor and privilege it is for me to welcome Chef Hemant Oberoi to this forum. Chef Hemant Oberoi has been a very strong supporter of the Institute of Hotel Management for 40 years and more, from the conception stages right until the time we actually started to fly. He's been with us. The greatest belief system for him, as far as IHM Aurangabad is concerned, is that he chose to put his son, Siddharth Oberoi, here in 1999. And he was a student of ours on one of the first BA Honors hotel management programs in those years. And Siddharth will remember me because I gave him a huge headache on account of his dissertation in the final year. And that brings a smile to his face. And though I've met Siddharth so many years later and repeatedly in London, I am so delighted to welcome both of you on the panel. And I'm going to try and keep this as informal as possible, because over the next 60 minutes, we want to really pick your brains to understand what we can learn from you and what you can leave behind as a legacy for the multitude of young chefs who look up to you. And clearly, we have to celebrate an entire lifetime of one of the finest chefs India has ever seen. So here is celebrating more than 4 decades of culinary and cuisine excellence by Chef Hemant Oberoi. So Chef, let me just kick in by saying, what are some of the trials and tribulations and the struggle that have gone into making of the legend that is brand Hemant Oberoi? After 4 decades of experience, do you think you would have done anything differently?
Thank you so much, Satish. It's really such a pleasure to be with all of you and with the students of the and faculty members of the college. And uh, yes, I never thought in my life that I will ever be opening a restaurant of my own when I was with Taj, because I never looked outside Taj for 42 years. And the things were changing, and the retirement age had come, and then I was an advisor for 1 year, and then the opportunities came, and our first opportunity was a restaurant in Singapore, which was Yantra by Hemant Obroy, and then came Masala Street in San Diego, and then everybody said, "Why not Hemant Obroy in the city which you belong to?" So that's how the birth of this restaurant took place. And yes, when you are with a company, there's a company behind you. And when you're on your own, you're fighting each and every battle on your own. It is not that you pick up the phone and call up the housekeeping, call up the maintenance, call up the engineering, and call up the vendors, and say, do this, do this, do this, and it's done in no minutes. Here, when I was doing the restaurant, I had a challenge that I had to complete the restaurants in 100 days. Right from the 4 walls, which I got, the bare 4 walls. And I had to complete the restaurant in 120 days. And we completed actually in 99 days. And because right from morning till evening, I used to be there, sitting on everybody's head. Ramzan days were there. I told the guys, I said, you please come. I will make sure that I have the biryani and everything for your iftari in the evening, and I'll do it for you. So that's how the things worked. And, we could open this on time. And yes, I wanted to give a standalone luxury restaurant to the city, because all my life I had seen only luxury and nothing else. In Taj, we were lucky enough to have the good support of Taj and Tata's, that whatever I wanted to do, I was given a free hand to do it. So we brought a lot of luxuries in the form of Zodiac Grill, Wasabi, whether it was Golden Dragon, whether it was the Masala series, and whether it was the Work Restaurant and Blue Ginger, and I can name lots of them. And the luxury does not mean only luxury when you're sitting. Today's dining has become, it's an experience. It's a meal, service, ambience, everything put together. It's an experience for which people do go out. Probably I could have done little less expenditure on this restaurant than what I did, because we were spoiled by Taj. So probably that's why it came to those standards, that a good tablecloth and good kind of tables, cutlery, crockery, glassware, everything was like, you name it and we had it. And still we do that. And but I'm happy that I did that, because nobody else would have done it. And today people make restaurants, kind of restaurant. They want to spend 1.5 cr or 1.25 cr and make a restaurant, have tables, chairs, because nobody is sure about how long the restaurant is going to last. Because the things are changing so fast in life, and this pandemic has brought everything to a halt, and this is in nobody's hand. So let's wait and see how the things will work.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you, Chef. There's one thing that you said which really touched my heart, and that is, if I wouldn't have done it, nobody else would have done it. And I stand by that belief of yours, because nobody has the kind of passion that you have for high quality food and beverage. And we've known it from the time we joined the company. 30 odd years ago. And we knew exactly what quality meant for you. And we've seen it all our lives. Which takes me to the second question that I want to ask you. Based on the experience of launching your own brand, your restaurants all over the world, as well as the one here in BKC, do you think the Indian market is really open enough for the kind of creativity which you displayed in cuisines? And then, do you think creativity will survive in the current disrupted, dine out environment that we are all going through? And it's this disruption and it's this delivery system that's keeping most of the restaurants busy today. So, Chef, what's your take on this?
Uh, you see, the things have moved on in life. Indian traveler has become global traveler in the last, I would say, decade and a half. And they've been going to the restaurants uh, probably in London, New York, and in some of the world capitals. And they are exposed to them. But if you ask me frankly, we are still not ready for it. If we bring a very top end, any cuisine restaurant, ingredients become a problem, acceptability becomes a problem. Our country has religious beliefs, so many things we cannot put on the menus. Whether we speak about the beef, in some areas beef is not allowed, some areas pork is not allowed, some area vegetarianism, and then we have the NGOs, which is the no garlic onion people, and the super NGOs which are there. So the things become very, very different. I remember Shobade writing once, the first choice of our Indians is the Indian food. Second is a Chimpu food, that is a Chinese Punjabi. And the third is a Punjabi food again, Indian food. In between, we go and try out some Italian, some pasta, pizza, some Thai food. When I opened Wasabi, it was a big challenge. To be very frankly, I must admit that when I went to Japan and came back on my first trip before the opening of the restaurant, I thought this food will never work in our country. I was very disappointed that this cuisine will not work with our Indians. Where in this city, where 45 to 50% of the people are vegetarians, and 7 out of the 10 top Indian billionaires are vegetarians. So I went to London, New York, to various other capitals to have a look at the Japanese food, how they serve. What do they serve? How they have twisted the Japanese food to suit to their palate. That's when I came back and we had a tie-up with Morimoto. And Morimoto was very clear on this. I will not be able to make any vegetarian food, Chef Obroy. That is your problem. I will make the non-vegetarian, you make the vegetarian. So when the trials were on, every non-vegetarian dish she made, I made the equivalent vegetarian, whether it was a carpaccio, whether it was a sushi, whether it was anything. And from the time we opened the doors, and it's been about 16, 18 years now, Touchwood still it has been one of the best Japanese restaurant in Asia or in the world. That was because we believed in quality. We believed in quality of ingredients. I will fly down to Japan every 3 to 4 months to check on what will be the ingredients available for the next, whether I'll have a continuous supply of that. My fish will be fresh chilled. It will be brought in from the airport directly into the refrigerated vans and brought into the kitchens. And at that time, I'm talking about 18 years back, I had brought a super freezer. And super freezer was a technology it keeps the plasma, blood plasma to pink. That's how I needed that for keeping my tuna very bright pink. So that was the kind of technology we had brought so many years back to make sure that the quality and consistency of food is always there. And also the retention of the manpower team. It's very, very important. It plays a huge role. I mean, there were so many temptations of the junior chefs being lured by the other companies in Asia, in Europe, and even within India. But at that time, no one left me. No one. I can tell you that. All my chefs stood by me. And if somebody will come and talk to them about the job, and they will, within 5 minutes, they will come and tell me. That was the most beautiful relationship we ever had. So coming back to the situations in the country, if you see most of the restaurant today, what's happening in Delhi, Bombay, other cities, people did try out Peruvian cuisine, standalone, didn't work. Standalone, good Japanese restaurant, hardly anything worked. I mean, we have qualified from sushi to sushi, if you ask me. So our sushis have become literally like sometimes Indianized sushi is spicy, this, that, everything. And the other day I was joking with somebody. I said I heard about a Maharaja sushi in Delhi, which is made with a tandoori chicken. So I said that was the last thing a Japanese will ever hear before doing haragiri. So that is the kind of food if we are going to serve. It's better not to serve that kind of a cuisine. 60-70% of the menus are the same in most of the restaurants. They will change the names here and there. Same sushis, same antipastis, same Thai curries, same thing you will come across in most of the menus. Everybody wants to put Asian food because it suits our palate. So that's where the situation stands now. This pandemic has changed the whole thing. And I would say it has changed the pan only. I mean, how we will use the pan to a different creations, it has to be seen. And how the menus will be seen, how interaction will take place, how this industry will behave in a different way with the customer. I mean, this has become everything is QSR now. So you come, have a delivery, take the food home. And we can just only hope and pray to God that this gets over fast and our life becomes normal.
Very well said. Very well said, Chef. So true. And no doubt about the fact that your team has been a big part of your success. And it takes even greater leadership to acknowledge the team's contribution. And there's been no doubt about the fact that you've always led from the front. Let me uh, ask you if, in spite of all the growth and all the experimentation and everything else that we see today, do you think this Indian market is mature enough to sustain the kind of high value restaurant investment that you've made? And in spite of all this investment, did you have to
Uh,
change your menu because of the pandemic?
yes, we had to change the menu because it was a one-page menu. It had to be kind of a lamination, no contact, and there were so many SOPs which had to come in because of the. So we had to make a one-page menu to suit the needs, and where not too much of a handling of food. The social distancing within the kitchen was a new norm, which people were not used to it. We make sure that we get our people checked so often, and even if one server or the kitchen guy is going to somebody's house to do the deliveries, we make sure that his test report is ready with him. So only then he goes to somebody's house to deliver it. So those are kind of precautions, and people understand the way we operate, the hygiene way, and we do the sanitation. Almost, we brought our own machine. We sanitize every week. We sanitize the whole place, kitchen, restaurant, and everything. And our people do take care to the utmost. washing of hand, whether sterilizing of the hand, face mask, face shield, everything is in temperature checking of all the people. Even when we are on Swiggy and all these places in Zomato, and we make sure that even their people who come, their temperature, name, and records are being kept with us. So that, tomorrow, if we have to, God forbids, if we have to trace anything, we can trace it back. So that's the way the new norms are. But new norms are not that good for the industry to sustain the top end restaurants. And the people who have put a huge investments, they are the sufferer. As you must have noticed, about 35% of the restaurants have already shut down in the first phase. And when the second wave has come, and if it continues for another month or so, I think another 20 to 25% of the restaurants will never reopen back. We cannot keep the people. We still want to pay them some salary because their houses also must run. But people are so scared that they go back to their own hometowns. The workers are not there. There are hardly any workers. We are still lucky that we could have all our people back. Almost, I would say about 70% of the people came back to us, but not in all the other restaurants.
I fully appreciate what you're saying, Chef. And it would be really sad for us to see a world-class operation, luxury dining going away. It would be really sad for something like that to happen. And to take some notes from another part of the world, I'm going to switch gears to Siddharth. So Sid, you've been in London, you've lived in Wimbledon, you've looked at what we have to offer here in India, you've looked at all the complications that Chef Oberoi has been talking about. So, what's your take? What really do you think is the difference in the way they do business and in the way we do business? Sid, you're muted. Sid, you've got muted again. So, Sid, I'm going to make a suggestion to you. If you're using a headphone, take it off and speak directly on the screen. That works much better. Yeah, you've got muted now. You were unmuted a minute ago. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Okay, Sid, by the time you fix your technology, let me go back to Chef Hemanth Oberoi and let me ask him this next question, which is what is the legacy of Chef Hemanth Oberoi's food philosophy? And how are you preparing your children, Siddharth and Saransh, to take your lifetime contribution to cuisine forward all over the world?
You see, when I opened Yantra by Hemant Obroy, that was the first Indian fine dining restaurant. And then we opened the Masala Street again. It was a Indian food inspirations of the street food of India. So I gave San Diego something different. I gave Singapore something different. And to this city, it was something different. And now to Abu Dhabi, I made a new concept. And we are at the Emirates Palace. And it's a new concept called Martaban. And it has been designed. It has been everything. A lot of effort has been put by me to, because it was about 3 to 4 years of work which has gone into making that restaurant. And I want to leave the legacy with them so that, Siddharth is a good operations guy. Saransh is a hardcore kitchen guy. And they should carry on the legacy of the OB hospitality. from here onward, they should take it up, and I'll keep on helping them in building up a strong foundation. And right after that, it's up to them how the tree should be looked after.
Very beautiful thought, Chef. I think they have a huge responsibility because it's very difficult for anybody to live up to the grand achievements that you've been able to bring about in your own lifetime and career in the kitchens. And as we go forward, I'm going to take another page from your book to ask you about your international network of some of the top chefs. So I know for a fact that you work very closely with Chef Morimoto. I know that Chef Alan Dukas has been a very close friend of yours. And some of the cuisines that they focus on in their respective markets, do you think India has the potential to redevelop some of those top international cuisines in our land? And if so, what would be your single most powerful ingredient that will allow you to retain your style of cooking in all of these international concepts?
You see, the whole world is, if you see in the last, or if you read the history of the world cuisines and the world chefs all over the world, it was France who, the French chef were the best once upon a time. Till 60s, 70s, they were the best chefs in the world. But they didn't want to change. The biggest challenge was that they didn't want to change. Then came the German, Swiss German chefs who wanted to make the changes, who were good in their basic roots of the French cuisine, but they wanted to make a change. They came to Asia, they came to Hong Kong, Singapore, Bangkok, and they made the inroads into the cuisine in a different way. They used the local ingredients to they use the Asian ingredients to make the French cuisine in a different way. The sauces came out in a different way, the grills came out in a different way, and the presentations changed, everything changed. It was the same French cuisine which took a different turn. By that time, the French cuisine had French chefs were already late. It was only Alan Ducasse who took a leap, and he went literally global and opening the fine dining restaurant, and he wanted to use the local ingredients. And I've met him so many times. In fact, we had a long chat when he celebrated the 25th anniversary of Louis Cannes in Monaco, and he had invited about 135 chefs across the globe, and I was invited from India to be present for those 3 days of celebrations. And we had a long chat. I asked him, why don't you come to India? Uh, he told me two things. He says, I will come to India. Number one is the ingredients, the availability, import licenses, and there are other things, problems. Secondly, will people like the kind of cuisine we create consistently? They'll come once a week, their anniversary, they're the same. Will it be viable for my sponsors in India to spend so much of money and not do well only for the occasions I will open a restaurant? That is not going to work. So he did not venture in. Same was the case with many other chefs who wanted to come to India and who tried their luck, Sergi Arola and other people. It didn't work in India because our palates are different. Our everything is different tastes, and we can spoil any food, jokingly, but we can spoil any cuisine in the world, and we'll make it suit to our palate. And that's where the things go wrong at times. I'm not against changing. I'm not against doing innovations. Be modern in your thinking. We were much ahead in thinking about a lot of things in Zodiac Grill, or whether it was wasabi, or whether it was souk, or whether it was Cal Indian food, where the fusions took place. almost like what, 25 years back. The NASA, the naan pizza which people talk about today, that was innovated by me how many, 24, 25 years back. And but what we talk about today is these chefs are very hesitant to come to India. And even for that matter, Gagan, who's been a successful chef all over the world, I mean, in Thailand and everywhere, he himself is hesitant to come to India. So that speaks for all the other chefs. Let the future, we don't know how things will change after pandemic, settle down. The whole, I think, world has gone back by about 3 to 4 years or 5 years minimum. So the traveling with a new experiment, with the new restaurants, it's going to take time to fill up the hotels and this industry to get back to normal. I wouldn't give less than 2 to 3 years minimum.
Chef, I'm going to dial back to one of your most famous concepts. It was your studio. And people would give an arm and a leg to just be able to come to your studio and to have you cook for them a meal which they would be able to remember the rest of their lives. What was the most powerful, unique ingredient that you used that made your cuisine so famous?
You see, it was not a particular ingredient or thing, whatever came to my mind. The guest will just give us a call and he says, Hemant, I'm bringing 8 guests, 6 guests. Number of vegetarians are this, number of non-veg are this. That's it. And any allergies or anything, that's it. Whatever came to my mind, I used to make the menu of 8 course, 9 course, or 10 courses according to their needs or the time they had. And some or the other I thought about, like I will tell you when Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt came, and they said we are just 5 of us. And I just made a ravioli and I told my guy, take this fresh truffle, white truffle, and just do the shavings in Brad Pitt's plate. And he looked at the white truffle and he looked at the server and he looked back at me and he says, Chef, how did you know that I love white truffles? So I said, this is what we work towards it. I had the fresh truffles which came yesterday. And I thought of it and we did some R&D and we said, you love truffles. And we have given you the truffles. To these kind of people, it is not the money, it is the smile on their face. It is the satisfaction at the end of the meal. They came, they saw the meal being made in front of them, plating being done in front of them. They can do the interaction in the chef studio. The freshness of the ingredients and the jiffy pots, we had all the fresh herbs, fresh everything being done. You can see the souffle rising, how the souffle is taken out, how the plating is done, how the sauces are made. You can watch it on various cameras and various television sets. So that makes it a very, very different chef studio. And we used to be almost full for about 150 to 200 days in that place. Minimum for that was 2 lakh rupees plus taxes for the only, and the wines were different.
Chef, that is one of your legendary contributions to the industry, and we will never forget that time. I remember we once carried an article in the Taj magazine when we used to work so closely with Mrs. Zakaria, and may her soul rest in peace. We carried your pictures on the Taj magazine, your style of cooking, your recipes. They became like an encyclopedia of Indian food, and we have only you, your passion to thank for these things. I'm going to ask you, Chef, in the light of what is going to happen in the future, we see so many of our young chefs, they've been locked down for a year now. It's been a year that I'm running the institute digitally without any students. None of my students have access to their kitchens. They might be doing some small cooking in their own homes. And where is this passion going to really come from if they don't have access to the real world of cuisine and pastry, uh, limited resources, lockdown conditions. What kind of advice would you give to all these young people?
You see, Satish, generations have changed from me to you to Siddharth to Saransh. Every 5 years, 7 years, the generations are changing. I jokingly tell people now is Gen Text. It's not Gen Next. It is Gen Text now. So Gen Text is impatient. They don't have patience. They need everything yesterday. And in our line, we have to have patience. And this pandemic has taught us more patience. We were becoming too impatient, and God said, please have patience, have faith in me. But you must try to keep on doing things under the circumstances also when the things go bad or the bad times come. You have to deal with the situations differently. And that's what exactly has happened. I mean, in my life, in my career at Taj, we saw so many ups and downs. We saw 93 blast, we saw blast outside Taj, we Ayodhya riots, and then we saw 26/11. But how we had the patience and we bounced back so well. And that's what they have to learn. They must concentrate. Whatever equipment, whatever way you things you have, ingredients you have, try to emulate, try to make the dishes with that, try to innovate on the same thing. I mean, I would have never thought of, I'm telling you the fact that the last couple of weeks when we were shut and everything, and we suddenly thought of making, I said, if everything can be done, why not make dokla cupcakes? So we made the dokla mix. We tried out this thing. We gave it with ricotta chilies and this and as a garnish but we came out with and we were doing a very good, very high level high tea for somebody, and we produced that dokla cupcakes for them. And this is the first time somebody had ever done a dokla cupcakes. They had seen every cupcake in life, but not never a dokla cupcakes. So I'm saying you have to think positively, you have to innovate, and you have to keep on be persuasive that I can do it. Someday I will be doing it. Otherwise, if you lose hope, you will lose everything in life.
Chef, you have been a trailblazer. So I remember from my very early days, about 30 years ago, in food and beverage, we heard about Chef Oberoi's vodka pani puris. We heard about green chili in the vanilla ice cream. We heard you serving spicy chocolate sauce with papadums. And you have been a trailblazer. You've broken every single rule in the book. And I'm so happy that you continue to do that. What gives you the fire from inside to experiment and to innovate?
You see, it is the passion which is there. So you have to have the passion in life. So if you don't have the passion, don't be in this line, because without passion and persuasiveness and the potential, all the three P's have to be there. Because if any one of them is missing, you will never be able to be innovating the thing ahead of people. Today's times are not kind of me too. You have to be a leader. You have to be ahead of others. You have to think 6 months, 1 year ahead of people. Otherwise, you will be making the same thing what the others are doing. And there is no market for that.
Very well said, Chef. Very well said. And I hope that the next generation is motivated to have the kind of fire and passion with which you have grown innovation in the cuisine industry in India. I'm going to ask you a couple of personal questions. If I were to ask you to describe Sid in one word, how would you describe Sid in one word?
Um, A noble-hearted soul, little impatient, but a noble-hearted soul who want to help the others at all times. And he's a true hotelier. And I'm sure he will go a long way, learn a lot of things on the way, and he will carry on the hobby hospitality flag.
And what about Saransh?
Saransh is different. He's like a showman. He keeps on thinking, sometimes like me, innovative. He just won a competition a few months back on Fox TV, and that Bobby Flay competition kind of a thing. And he's been on television, but he, even in the restaurant, he keeps on doing things. Even in the at home when the lockdown was there, he kept on making certain things, and he would send me the videos of that. And he's also passionate about his own cuisine. Like Siddharth is about the service standards and everything and SOPs, and he's about the quality and the consistency of the food.
Superb. You've given not one but two people who should be able to carry the legendary Obi hospitality story forward in India. So if I can switch over to Sid now, Sid, if you've been able to unmute yourself, can you just say hello to everyone?
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible now?
Yeah, now you're audible. You're sounding
Sorry,
great.
sorry about that.
No problem. I'm just going to ask you, Sid, from your experiences in the UK and now coming back to India, dealing with this whole pandemic and all the new challenges surrounding that, what is the difference in the way we have handled the pandemic and the way they would have handled the pandemic back there in the UK?
Sir, I think, first of all, sorry, I'll just take this opportunity to thank you, sir, and for inviting me, and Devika also thank you for inviting me on this panel. Um, Talking about the COVID, I think, so first of all, from what we hear, what they have done in the two countries, UK has done it very well. They have supported the restaurant fraternity. The government has put in some money there. For example, if we used to do the London Restaurant Week, which was somewhere in, I think, October, if I'm not wrong, they have kind of supported them to relaunch the entire thing, to restart the restaurants. Government has given funds, aided them in whichever shape or form they could. Whereas we out here have been struggling to do that, especially with the standalone and even hotels to a lot of extent. The big players, the big hoteliers, the big hotels have changed, have survived in some shape of form, but the small ones, whereas the 2 or 3 star have not. And I know some of them who have shut down completely because they didn't have that kind of a financial backup what the others had. So that is the way pandemic, I think, going forward, even I hear of restaurant fraternity in India helping or talking to the government for some aid for all the restaurateurs in some shape or form, whichever they can within each state. I think the government should help us in whichever way they can. But yes, that are the two major factors that I've seen. The way UK has taken that approach, which I think after a few months now you can see has helped the restaurateurs restart somewhere and get up on their own. And yeah, I think by the 17th of May, the entire UK should open and be back on their feet in terms of they have allowed them to open with open air. Those restaurants which have open air, areas to sit, they can start their restaurants. 17th of May, they are looking at everything open. So I think yes, that's the way they have handled it, and they have handled it very well. Of course, the population is a big factor, but having said that, it's not about the population, also about the way they have done it with systems and process and helping their place, restaurant people.
Okay, Sid, you know what? I'm going to ask you to be really honest. Having studied and worked in the UK, my question is, do you think we can really adopt some of those systems and processes which they have in the UK here in India? Do you think it's
Uh,
possible for us to do that?
so it is not impossible, but it will take time. It is our mindset actually. It's about our culture. So that how we adopt to things, how we adapt to It's purely about how we want to work. And for example, as I say, I always learned this, that they do a 8 hour shift, but they work in that 8 hours. We work for 12 hours, but we still don't get. हमारा काम फिर भी pending होता है next day के लिए. So that is what I have seen when they work within that 7 or 8 hours and then go for a drink after that. But they produce their work. So their operational hours, as they call it, is product, or the productive hours is quite productive, and they get a lot of work done during that hour, whether it's the admin team or whether it's the operational team. That's what I've learned there. And it's not like India where a lot of their people are there to help you, a lot of things to do on your own, even if you're in the hotel, though they are different departments, but there's somewhere a lot of learning there. Here it's one phone call and there are 1,000 people to help you out in hotels and restaurants, hotels, I would say. So it's a challenge in India, but yes, we can do it. It will take us a little time. Some of the students who had come from IHM, I remember, were training in St. James, and that's what I used to tell them: learn the best from here and take it back. I don't remember the name, but I used to tell them just take that back and try and incorporate it when you have your own hotels or restaurants, or you become hoteliers and because it's very important. Systems, without systems processes, I don't think anything can work. I know Mr. Jera might be like, "Oh my God, Sid is talking about all this," but yes.
No, I'm very proud. Sid, I'm very proud of you, and I'm so
Think so.
delighted to see how much you have actually evolved, because I want to share with you that many of the students who came back from the UK, you were a big hero for them, you know. So Sid
Oh,
was the
I didn't
hero
take
that
them
they
for
wanted to
drinking,
be
but
like.
yeah, good to hear that.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, Sid, how much pressure do you carry being Chef Hemant Obroy's son in your operation?
Um, so it was, to be frank, yes, we are very proud to have, thanks to God, to have a father like him. It has put in pressure, but for me it was less because I was a F&B guy, so I learned during the course of time, thanks to IHM actually, which made me take that in a very positive way. And our seniors, the faculty, all of you, has helped me not to put like that pressure. I remember Chef Gerard one day telling me also that, Sid, don't worry. It's your cooking skills, it's whatever you know. Don't worry about the pressure. I understand. And that made me, that was my first day, I still remember. And he said, don't worry about it. Just do what you can. And I was happy to hear that. A lot of my batchmates still give me a grief about that, but that's fine. Until date, that your chef Obroy son and this and that jokingly, but yes, I think the pressure was more on my brother. Him being from the same, taking this kitchen line and stuff, so it's more on him rather than me. But yes, we are proud. We are proud. It's not a pressure, but it's proud. We're proud to be his kids.
So, I'm going to go back to what your father said about carrying the legacy of the Hemant Oberoi brand forward. What is your strategy for the future?
So looking at A is that we have opened a luxury restaurant that we have, a high-end luxury thing. The strategy for the future, looking at the market and understanding the market here, um, and obviously innovation is one thing, but keeping it simple so that everyone is happy. So whichever restaurant that we hopefully will launch in the future will be more of comfort food, one that the guests would understand. And once they are ready for the high end, which we already have a restaurant, they can come in there. So it's in short is opening more restaurants which are for everyone to enjoy and giving that food. I hope I'm right in what I'm saying before my dad shoots me. But yes, that's what it is. So
Yes.
that's the idea. Opening hopefully more branches, but for the common food, comfort food, that is more important. But innovating ourselves at the same time also.
So, Sid, I'm going to ask you a tough question. One of my friends in Kolkata, okay, he runs a very powerful brand. It's called Six Baliganj Place. They were very traditional, hardcore West Bengal cuisine and so on. And in the course of the pandemic, they completely disrupted their business model, and they created about 18 takeaway centers in the whole of Calcutta. Would you ever think Chef Hemant Oberoi would allow something like that to happen?
No, no.
I
Um,
think that's
I don't think so. Because so we have tried and tested. the things we know things will get better, but we won't disrupt, and chef will not allow to disrupt a if you already have that kind of a build already done, to break something down and restart into a takeaway model, because things will get better with the pandemic. I know right now everyone's in the same situation, but I think if we stick to it, we will sail through. We did it last year, and we kind of bounced back in October, November. Um, so I think we should stick to what we have, and that will do well. Things will get better for sure. There's no need to change your strategy and say, okay, let me do a takeaway. One, two takeaways from the same outlet can be done, and that would work well because that outlet has given you the branding. So hence, people know you through that outlet and your name. So they will order it you for you from you, at home as well. So keep that and let that run through. So I don't think the model would, and I don't think Chef Obroy will allow that to happen to his brand. If he's hearing me.
Yeah, very, very well spoken, well spoken, and I'd just like to say very powerful DNA, because I can see Chef Oberoi's DNA for standards, quality, style, substance, passion. It's all very visible in the way you are looking at your father's legacy, and I want to wish you all the very best, and I wish you're able to
Thank you,
do
sir.
a lot more for his cuisine and take it to a global level and make sure that every palate is able to experience the wonderful pleasure of tasting what Chef Oberoi has invented in his very fertile mind. I'm going to leave the floor open for some questions, but while the questions come on, Sid, I'm going to ask you a slightly more tougher personal question. Are you going to get your next generation to become responsible for the Hemanth Oberoi brand? Your daughter.
I a long way to go, sir. If she is happy to do that, yes, she's been playing video apps with my dad, which are more to do with restaurant cooking. So I think she has that inclination towards things, but it keeps shifting. She's only 5, but yes, if she is happy to do and join the our industry, I won't stop her. I would tell her to go ahead, and obviously hope that she carries that on. Both, even Saranch's son, both the kids carry that on and take the things forward. It would be really great to see that. But yes, I think they're too young. 20 years, you don't know what happens. 20 odd years, how life will change. But yes, it would be really great, and I would be proud to see them carrying that legacy on further. Into the
Sid, I'm going to say you've got Chef Watson, you've got IBM, you've got automated cooking. So there might be a case for the young generation to take Chef Oberoi's recipes into an automated format, okay, through a robotic kitchen to the rest of the world. So, Chef, this is a tough question for you. Would you be happy to see your granddaughter take your recipes through artificial intelligence uh, and robotic kitchens to the rest of the world?
You see, I'll be happy if she is involved in anything because whatever she's been doing till date, and she does it through her heart. I mean, she is so passionate about whatever she is doing. She does it so well, and she's a very, very intelligent kid. And some of the genes have carried on from the grandfather. And so no, she is really a very, very intelligent kid, and I'm sure she keeps on chatting with me on FaceTime, and she says, "This is my kitchen now. This is the rolling pin. This I'm rolling the dough now." She's got that toy kitchen with her, and that's how she's been watching me, and she'll whenever she comes to our place, and she'll say, "Dadu, what are you making for me?" So that is the kind of a thing she'll watch enough. So it's so nice to how you make this. So it's nice that the kids, are so different, and the next generation is going to be very, very different.
Thank you, Chef. And it's wonderful to see this whole family coming together. And thank you for sharing some of our very personal stories with us, as well as talking to us about the DNA of what makes the brand Hemant Oberoi what it is. And of course, Sid, you have a lot of responsibility carrying this huge legacy of what your father has created to the rest of the world. And thank you once again for taking the time and spending this hour with us. We'll take a few questions.
Thank you,
Nishant,
sir.
I'm passing it over back to you. Thank you, Chef. Thank you, Sid.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, so Devika will be taking that. If anybody wants to ask questions, can raise their hand so we can unmute you.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question on behalf of the students. How many of you are interested in working with Chef Hemant Obroy and his brand? Okay, I'm seeing a couple of hands go up. Oh, fantastic. Okay, all right, all right. So that's the question which was required. So, Siddharth, I'm going to invite you to first interview these people on Skype. And once you're satisfied, they can be then passed on to the final grand interview with Chef Oberoi. And I can tell you that at this point of time, oh my God, I've got a phenomenal number of hands up.
Yes, I can see that, sir.
I can see about 30 hands up. So how many people are you looking to hire, Sid?
So completely depends on where we are at that point of time. Once I think they're now in their third year. So a year from now, I think hopefully things should get better for us, depending on clearly depending on the situation that we are in, the restaurants that we have at that point of time, and how many new things that we launch or create. I reckon this question is better asked to chef than me in terms of kitchen part of it. Service, I would then take care. How many chef has, because he has a lot of things in his mind which he knows how to put, and especially from kitchen perspective. But if you ask me, I think if things go well and things, we look at least an 8 to 10 new staff to get in on board.
Chef, if there's one thing you're looking for when you hire somebody from IHM Aurangabad, what is it that they should prepare for?
If they don't have passion, there's no place in our
Super,
place.
super. Beautifully said, Chef. Beautifully said. Okay, I can still see a few hands up, so let's take that question without wasting time. Okay,
So we
back to
have a
you,
question
David.
from Varun. If he wants to unmute, Varun can unmute and ask his question.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Chef Oberoi. Your insights are very good. My question is to Siddharth, sir. What business model should the local restaurants, the small restaurants, should adopt now to, because the pandemic has hit us very hard. So what should we adopt to get back and bounce back?
You're talking about UK restaurants, is that correct?
No, Indian restaurants.
Indian restaurants. Okay. Right now, as most of the restaurants are doing it purely obviously based on where you are within the location where you are, your kind of clientele, but purely based on small scale restaurants, where your cost of your regular cost is down, and your rentals that per se and your staff costs. You have a restaurant which would be around 20 or 30 seater restaurant going forward, which is, as I said, the cost impact should be there, which should be minimalistic. And as I said, comfort food is the in thing where you give the guests what they want at this point of time, but also making sure that something new, one or two dishes that on your menu should be something new that pulls the crowd to you to begin with, because everyone is right now, as Chef Obroy said very correctly, everyone is giving the same food. Wherever you go, everyone has the same kind of dishes, the same service structure. You need to recreate that in a different form, and that's what people would like. They are looking at something new. If you want to, for example, people are looking at gins has become the next big thing, and is the next big thing in India, which was done 15 years back in the Western world. So we are adapting to new gins, new wines, and stuff like that. So it purely depends on what you want. But as I said, the most important thing, keeping in mind, going with the pandemic, is opening something. If you want to open up your own, open something small, and keeping your making sure your costs are in minimalistic view, and yeah, and giving the guests what they want. It's an all world cuisine, or you want a oriental, but whatever you want to do, but making sure it's comfort food at the same time. That will sell well.
Thank you so much, Siddharth sir. Thank you, Dr.
Welcome.
Jairam, for giving us such an opportunity.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Over to you, Devika.
Um, it was a great discussion, and I would like to thank our panelists, Chef Hemant Obroy and Mr. Siddharth Oberoi, for delivering such an insightful webinar. It certainly gave us a conceptual clarity and insights into the topic. A striking line, as mentioned by Chef, that stuck with me specifically was that patience is everything in hospitality industry, definitely. And also, Chef said that the three P's, which are very important for hospitality industry student, that is passion, persuasion, and potential to do something new. This was certainly comprehensive and constructive, which will play an integral role in our professional growth. Once again, an appreciation to Chef Hemant Obroy and Mr. Siddharth Oberoi for giving us time from their schedule during such trying times. Alongside, I would like to thank our principal, Dr. Satish Jairam, for moderating the webinar and making it a hassle-free experience for all of us. I would also like to express my gratitude towards the faculty members who guided us throughout and also gave us an opportunity to conduct this webinar. Last but not the least, I would like to thank my syndicate for helping me. This would not have been possible without all of them. And thank you so much, everyone, for attending this webinar. I have posted a feedback form in the chat box, so please fill it. Thank you so much. Have a great evening and stay safe.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Devika.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Devika. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you, Sid. I'm looking forward to
Thank
come
you,
to the
sir.
restaurant when we are allowed